You are listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, presented by Richard A. Boxshall, in which I chronicle my life and attempts to become a professional writer by, doing some writing daily, hopefully. Hello, today is Tuesday the 5th of November 2025, also known as NaNoWriMo Day 5, and you're listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. For some reason at the top of the show yesterday, I said it was October the 4th, not November the 4th, so sorry about that. So, nobody listened to it and said, I think you might have uploaded the wrong episode, possibly because I still said immediately afterwards NaNoWriMo Day 4. And I've had a bit of a disappointing day in terms of writing. I've done a little bit, but only a few hundred words, and I wanted to do more, but I don't know. Well, I'll explain why in a minute, but I think I'm struggling. Well, no, I'll explain now. So yesterday I got quite a lot done, but none of it was at home. I got some done on the train and I got some done at the restaurant before I went to see the show last night. And I got some done both ways on the train. In fact, I got about nearly 2,000 words done yesterday in total, which is really good. I haven't been that productive for a while. And so today I've done a little bit, but haven't really been in the mood. But I do find at the moment I'm being more productive when I'm away from the house. So tomorrow I'm going to go to a coffee shop in town and try and get a load done whilst I'm in town. What I was going to talk to you about today briefly was the main characters in this book. So my main character is a girl called Veronica Alice Arden. And the Veronica is a deliberate shortening or an alteration of the middle tree norn of the three tree spirits, Veroandi it's called. And her name Veronica is short for that, but is a version of that. But I've shortened her name to Ronnie. Now, I've been struggling with this character from pretty much day one. So at the beginning, I really enjoyed writing the stuff for her when she was a kid. And I think I kind of worked the character out until roughly a quarter of the way through the book, when she's first absorbed into the tree and told that she is one of Idrisil's ambassadors. And since then, I've been really struggling with her. I've not been sure whether Ronnie is the right name. I've experimented with or thought about calling her different names. So one of the names that I came up with was Frankie, because apparently Frankie is also a shortening of Veronica, but I don't understand and that's what it says on the internet, but I've not been able to discover why. So I don't really want to shorten it until I know why or change it. But fairly recently, the character formed in my head, and there are two things that made that work. So, firstly, and this is all moments towards the end of the book, there is a scene where she is effectively putting a gun to someone's head, saying, look, if you do not release my friend, I'm going to kill this scientist. And in my original notes for the draft of that chapter, it says she doesn't go through with it. She doesn't kill him. And he was supposed to die later on in the book, during the final assault on the Arboretum. And it was very strange because I was just writing that scene and I had my notes in front of me saying, no, it's a bluff, she doesn't kill him. And before I knew what had happened, she'd shot him in the head and killed him. I know I typed those words, but I don't know where it came from. It wasn't part of my plan. And it was like, oh, that's who she is. Now, I don't mean she's a murderer, but she's someone who is in such... I don't know how to explain why that moment... because I've been thinking about this. I can't explain why that moment suddenly made the character real in my head, but I think it's because for all the other characters, they've done the things that I weren't expecting, which means I know them... I've defined them so well in my head that they almost live on their own. And that had never happened with Ronnie. It wasn't a moment that had happened with that character. So I think when she did something unexpected, that's when I suddenly realised, shit, I know who you are now. She's not a cold-blooded murderer. It was just something that happened in that moment. And for some reason, and suddenly the character came alive in my head. And now I don't want to change the name. She is Ronnie. She is Veronica. I don't feel the need to change it because the moment she shot that scientist, in cold blood, it has to be said, it's like, I know, I get you now. I understand who you are. And there was another moment, I don't know if it was in the same chapter or a little bit later on, but basically she's been dragged off by people that she thought were her allies, and then she's discovered they're going to execute her. Basically, she's been given an army detail to look after, and there's 6 of them. And one of them, she's kind of developed this friendship with. And it's... So when the other soldiers' orders are changed, it's like, okay, we're not going to protect her anymore. We need to kill her. They don't tell this 6th guy because they realise that he's got a little bit too close to Ronnie and might not like those orders, and indeed might not carry them out, and indeed might make their life very difficult for trying it. So they deliberately try to get him out of the situation. But it doesn't work, and he effectively kills his old comrades to save Ronnie. What I didn't expect them to do was start shagging at that moment. It's like, that was not in the storyline at all. There was a bit supposedly in the new world, you know, at the when there are people that have survived. When the world has ended, they are 2 of the designated survivors. In the epilogue, they had got together by then. I'd already decided that was going to happen. And sorry for being coarse there, but he literally saves her life. They walk away from the bodies, like, kind of not believing what's just happened, and then suddenly they're being intimate. And it's not, you know, it's not graphically described in the book or anything like that, because that's not what I'm interested in telling in that moment. But I don't know where that came from. There was nowhere in my notes that whilst they're walking away from, you know, whilst they're running back to the Arboretum, having murdered another 5 people, suddenly they're, you know... Anyway, so it's those 2 moments, the unexpected intimacy with her and Private Vickers, and the moment where she killed this scientist. I had no idea those moments were coming. I did not plan those at all. Ronnie did that. I know that's such a bullshit thing to say, but it's true. If you define your characters well enough, sometimes they will not fill the holes in the story that you have defined for them. And sometimes working around that is a problem, and sometimes it makes your story better. And in this one, it made the story better because I know now who that girl is, and I understand her. And actually, when I go back and edit it, I now will be able to make sure her character is more solid. So if there's things that I've had her doing that now don't quite fit, I can adjust it. So yes, after 5 years, it's pathetic, isn't it? After 5 years of working with these characters, I've finally worked the main character of the book out. Mental. I mean, all the other characters, you know, Gordon Oakley, Carruthers, Ursula, Marianne, Lord Farnborough, Mackenzie... I know who all they are, and they are all the secondary... and Danny. Even Erica Yates, who's my sort of bad character, Ronnie's university enemy in the first quarter of the book. I know who she is. I know who all of them are, but I didn't know who Ronnie was. And now I do. Yeah, weird. Anyway, just to give you an idea how a writer's brain works. So tomorrow I'm going to go into town and try and do some writing in town. And I'm hoping, my kind of plan is to try and get, because I had a few days off at the beginning, but I want to have chapter 37 finished by the 9th. So that gives me another 4 days. So 2 more writing days and 2 more editing days. So that's sort of my plan. Anyway, we'll see if I succeed. I'll stop it now because my 6 minutes has become 8.5 and counting. So I'll be quiet. Thank you for listening. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye. You have been listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, presented by Richard A. Boxall. Thank you for tuning in to my random ramblings. And if you'd like to know more about me or my projects, visit my link tree at linktr.ee/Richard Writes, capital R, capital W. Thank you for listening.